Section 6. Unlicensed Associates, Ways to Lose Your Real Estate License. Unlicensed Associates, Ways to Lose Your Real Estate License. A few days after discussing advertising compliance, Ashley walked into Michael's office, carrying a stack of listing files that needed broker review. Before she could sit down, she noticed another person working at the desk across the room. The young woman was organizing transaction files, scanning documents into the brokerage's transaction management system, answering telephone calls, and scheduling inspections for several agents. Ashley smiled. "I don't think I've met her before." Michael looked up. "That's Jennifer. She's one of the best employees in this office." Ashley watched Jennifer answer another phone call before asking, "Is she an agent?" "No," Michael replied. "Jennifer is an unlicensed assistant." Ashley looked surprised. "Really? She seems to be doing everything." Michael smiled. "She does a tremendous amount for this brokerage. But she also knows exactly where her responsibilities begin and where they end." David happened to walk into the office just as Michael finished speaking. "You know," David said, "I've seen more than one experienced broker get into trouble because they forgot that line." Ashley looked confused. "What line?" "The line between clerical work and licensed activity." Michael nodded. "Exactly." He explained that Arizona law allows brokers and salespersons to hire unlicensed assistants to perform many valuable administrative and clerical functions. In fact, most successful real estate teams rely heavily on administrative support to keep transactions organized and clients informed. However, an unlicensed assistant cannot perform activities that require a real estate license, no matter how experienced they may be or how busy the office becomes. Michael opened another section of the investigation file. This broker wasn't being investigated because of fraud. He wasn't accused of stealing money. He wasn't even accused of misleading a client. Ashley leaned forward. "So what happened?" "He allowed an unlicensed assistant to perform licensed activities." Ashley looked toward Jennifer. "What exactly does that mean?" Michael explained that Arizona defines an unlicensed assistant as someone hired by a licensed broker or salesperson to perform duties that do not require a real estate license. Administrative work is perfectly acceptable. Preparing files, scanning documents, scheduling appointments, answering phones, organizing transaction records, delivering paperwork, coordinating inspections, preparing marketing materials approved by the broker, and assisting with office operations are all important parts of running a successful brokerage. Jennifer looked up from her computer and smiled. "I probably save these agents 3 or 4 hours every day." Michael laughed. "You absolutely do, and that's exactly why you're so valuable." But Jennifer also understands something many people overlook. She never crosses into licensed activity. Ashley asked the obvious question, "So what happens if she does?" Michael became serious. "Then the problem belongs to everyone." He explained that if an unlicensed assistant performs an activity requiring a real estate license, the assistant may be engaging in the unauthorized practice of real estate. More importantly, the supervising licensee and designated broker may also face disciplinary action for allowing it to happen. The responsibility for supervision ultimately rests with the broker, which is why every brokerage should have written policies explaining what unlicensed assistants may and may not do. David smiled. "I've seen it happen. A broker becomes busy. An agent gets overwhelmed. Someone says, 'Can you just show the property for me this one time?' Michael nodded. Or, 'Can you explain the inspection report?' Or, 'Can you meet the buyer for the final walkthrough?' Can you answer their questions while I'm running late?" He looked directly at Ashley. "Every one of those requests sounds harmless, but every one of them has the potential to become a licensing violation." Ashley thought for a moment. "So the issue isn't whether the assistant knows the answer, it's whether Arizona law allows them to answer it." "Exactly," Michael replied. "Real estate licensing isn't based upon experience, it's based upon authority." Michael explained that the Arizona Department of Real Estate has long recognized the value of unlicensed assistants, but it has also consistently emphasized that administrative support must never become real estate representation. The moment an unlicensed assistant begins advising clients, discussing contract terms, negotiating repairs, answering questions about value, interpreting inspection reports, hosting an open house without a licensee present, or performing other licensed activities, the line has been crossed. Ashley smiled. "So Jennifer could unlock a house for an agent, but she can't show the property." "Correct." "She can schedule a home inspection, but she can't explain what the inspector found." "Correct." "She can deliver documents, but she can't explain what the client is signing." Michael smiled. "Now you're thinking like a broker." He continued reviewing the file. In this investigation, the assistant met buyers at the property because the agent was running late. Ashley shrugged. "That doesn't sound too bad." It wasn't, until the buyers started asking questions. The buyers wanted to know whether the seller would repair the roof, whether the home was priced correctly, and whether they should increase their offer. Trying to be helpful, the assistant answered every question. She wasn't trying to practice real estate, Michael explained. She was trying to provide good customer service. But the moment she began offering advice, she stepped into licensed activity. David nodded, and unfortunately, so did the broker who allowed it. Michael reminded everyone that Arizona law also requires brokers to ensure every affiliated licensee maintains an active license. Occasionally, a salesperson's license expires because continuing education wasn't completed or renewal requirements weren't satisfied. If the broker fails to timely sever that affiliation and allows the individual to continue performing licensed activities, both the individual and the brokerage may face disciplinary consequences. While these situations are often simple oversights rather than intentional violations, ADRE still expects brokers to maintain accurate licensing records and actively supervise the people working under their licenses. Ashley looked around the office. So being a designated broker means supervising people, not just transactions. Michael smiled. I'd actually reverse that. A designated broker supervises people. When people are properly supervised, the transactions usually take care of themselves. He closed the investigation file and looked toward Jennifer. One of the best assistants I've ever worked with once told me something I'll never forget. Ashley looked interested. What was it? Jennifer smiled before answering herself. I don't need a real estate license to make an agent successful. I just need to know where my job ends, so theirs can begin. Michael laughed. That's probably one of the smartest things anyone has ever said in this office. Ashley closed her notebook. I think I understand now. An unlicensed assistant isn't limited because they lack ability. They're limited because Arizona law protects consumers by ensuring licensed activities are performed only by individuals who have met the education, testing, background, and regulatory requirements established by the state. Michael nodded with a smile. And that's exactly why this rule exists. Real-world Arizona example. An Arizona brokerage permitted an unlicensed assistant to meet prospective buyers at a vacant listing because the assigned salesperson was delayed in traffic. The assistant intended only to unlock the property, but the buyers began asking questions about pricing, inspection concerns, financing options, and the seller's willingness to negotiate. Wanting to be helpful, the assistant answered the questions and discussed possible contract terms. After the transaction closed, a complaint was filed. During ADRE's investigation, it became clear the assistant had crossed from administrative support into activities requiring a real estate license. The designated broker was disciplined for failing to properly supervise the assistant, reinforcing that good intentions do not excuse violations of Arizona licensing law. Broker tip. Every brokerage should have written policies identifying exactly what unlicensed assistants may and may not do. Before assigning a task, ask yourself one question. Does this task require the assistant to provide advice, negotiate, interpret, recommend, or represent a client? If the answer is yes, or even maybe, the task should be performed by a licensed real estate professional. Online discussion question 1. Why do you think Arizona law places strict limits on what unlicensed assistants may do during a real estate transaction? Model answer. Real estate transactions involve significant legal and financial decisions. Arizona requires licensed professionals to perform activities requiring judgment, advice, negotiation, or representation to ensure consumers receive competent, accountable, and regulated services. Question 2. Michael says the problem belongs to everyone. What does he mean by that statement? Model answer. If an unlicensed assistant performs licensed activities, responsibility may extend beyond the assistant to the supervising licensee and the designated broker. Proper supervision is an essential responsibility of every Arizona brokerage. Question 3. What procedures could a brokerage implement to reduce the risk of unlicensed assistants accidentally performing licensed activities? Model answer. Brokerages should adopt written policies, provide regular training, clearly define job responsibilities, require broker approval for certain tasks, and encourage assistants to immediately refer legal or transactional questions to a licensed agent.